wow, these women have like come with a resume. I'm like, can I get my script? Even just a draft. I want to improve and better myself at every turn. I'm paid to do this. This is wild. And I'm like, I'm sharing Christmas time with royalty. They are as much fun to make as they are for you to view.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Heart in Motion podcast. I'm so excited today to be chatting with Kathryn Davis. Hi, Kat.
Hi, nice to be here. Thank you for having me. And to everyone listening, thank you for doing so.
I'm so excited to be chatting with you today about a couple of projects, big projects actually, that you have been a part of this year that we got to see on Hallmark. We're going to talk a little bit about Unwrapping Christmas that premiered actually on Hallmark in July. We got to see it last year on Hallmark Plus. In addition, Hearts Around the Table premiered back in the spring, but we got to see it this week again on Hallmark. So I'm really excited to talk about those projects, but I'm wondering if we can go all the way back to the beginning. I'm always curious to see how actors, get into the world of acting. So, can you talk to me a little bit about your journey that has brought you to where you are today?
Yes, absolutely. So, I was a theater kid for years and years growing up, doing community theater, and then eventually, when I finished high school, I was like, "Well, I want to do this professionally." So, I ended up attending theater school. So, I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Performance Acting, and after leaving theater school, I just started to kind of audition. And it was a couple of years, and I was doing auditions for this romantic comedy, this MOW world, we call it Movies of the Week.
Yeah.
And they're really big in Canada. So I was auditioning for quite a few. And then I had a direct offer come through from my agent one day, and it was to play just a small role, play a mean princess in a movie that would become Christmas with a Prince. So it turns out I had auditioned for this company 3 months before for the role of a sister in like a country romance wedding film. And they were like, we loved it. You weren't quite right for that role. So they kept me in mind. So when a role came up later, they were like, well, let's have this girl, Kathryn, let's have her come in. And I was very, very blessed. Amazing producers. They were actually the team behind the Hearts Around the Table. So 8 years on, I still get my chance to go up and work with them. They're a great team. Brain Power Studio, shout out. So yeah, that was
Nice.
kind of my start in the world, was like a small role, and then just over the years auditioning and getting slightly larger principal roles, recurring supporting roles until my first lead role in 2021.
That's amazing. It's always interesting to hear, we walk through those things in life where it's like, oh, we think it didn't work out, but you never know what it's actually preparing you for in the future.
Exactly. And you never know who's watching it. So there's almost
Hmm.
that added pressure that we put on ourselves as actors as well, because it is that you perhaps are not quite right for that part, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they didn't like you, that you didn't capture them in some sort of way. And yeah, I guess I'm an example of that, that
Yeah.
this role that I had already let go of because I'd done it months before, and then spoke to the producer on set, and I was like, oh, okay, well, how did you kind of come to think of me? Because I didn't
Yeah.
audition for this role. And they were like, oh,
Yeah.
well, you auditioned for this thing. So
Mm.
yeah, it's always a lot of pressure within the industry itself, that you're
Yeah.
like, every time you're auditioning, it's like you really want that part, but you also want to make a good impression for future opportunities with them. So
That's so
yeah.
good. So I was scrolling IMDb the other day, just, I recognized so many of your projects, but
Oh.
I kept seeing a video game pop up. And I
Hmm.
knew I knew not of this world of cats. So what is that? Talk about the video game part of it.
Yeah, that was a world I stumbled into. It was my first professional gig. I say professional meaning I was unionized and paid for it. Out of theatre school, I auditioned for a role, and then the executive producer had seen a short film that I'd worked on at theatre school, and he saw it and he was like, I want this girl. I want her to be cast. And it was what was called an it's an early concept. It's called a vertical slice. So it's sort of they have a budget. They go into a studio where you're wearing like a Velcro suit and covered in sensors, and it's a chance for the story and the team to be able to portray the setting, the mood, the character, storyline that they're expecting for this game to move forward. So it's probably altogether maybe 7 or 8 minutes of action, of dialogue, of voiceover work. And I was doing that over several days, and that game ended up becoming greenlit to become Assassin's Creed Syndicate. And yeah, the video game world is it's a wild one. It's very much a hybrid between TV and film and theater because like the theater world, if you're working on a proscenium stage and you have the fourth wall in front of you, you're having to imagine the circumstances, especially
Mm,
if you're working with a minimalist set. You have
yeah.
to imagine the world and be able to almost paint that for an audience. It's very much the same with video game world. You're working with like a Velcro suit, no costumes. The props that you're working with are sometimes 3D printed. So I've worked with a weaponry that is a 3D print, but sometimes you're just given a block of wood with sensors on it. It's like, that's a beer, now drink. So very much heavily reliant on your imagination. It's so much fun. Like the performance has to be slightly heightened because mostly TV film, you're working within a realm of naturalism. Um, so with that, you have to heighten your performance a little bit so that the cameras, you're working in what's called a volume and you're surrounded by 360 degrees by, oh gosh, it must be at least 100 infrared cameras that are picking up every single movement of that your body makes, your breath, everything. And then sometimes you're working with head-mounted camera which is gives you big migraines, but you'll have the three cameras in front of you and they're lit up as well. So it's capturing your facial expressions too. So I always found that performance has to be slightly heightened, so maybe leans more towards the theater realm. But yeah, still working within they want as much realism as possible. The breath, they want you to
Mm,
be able to, when you're, they call it idling. And that's when you're sort of still, but they don't want you to be absolutely stock still. They want natural movement, whether it's hands, chest, just a shift of weight. That's just what they're trying to replicate is realism within the game.
yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. Crazy sometimes because you're
Yeah.
like, I'm paid to do this. This is wild. And the voiceover world is really quite different because you're working with variations. You're doing crazy things. Like it's called Ono. So any voiceover actor that's done video games would know exactly what I'm referencing. You get to it when you're doing your script. You're going through variations of the actual scripted words, and then they get to the Ono part, and they go, "Okay, we need 3 punches to the stomach, guttural," and they're like, "Go," and you're standing there, and I remember the first time I ever did, and I watched 2 other actors go before me, and I'm like, what is this world? And you're having to do sound effects of like, what would it be like to be punched in the stomach? Is it oof, oof, and you're having, by the end of it, I'm giggling, but they're
Yeah.
able to capture it, and they're like, perfect, that we're moving on. And the last voiceover I did, there were I guess it would be very graphic demises for the character, and it was death by very unhallmark, death by electrocution, death by flamethrower, um, death by like long fall, and I'm in a booth having to do this. So this is insane, but it's again so much fun at the end of the day.
It sounds fascinating. I wonder, has there ever been a time where, you've done the video game world and then you step back into like a movie of the week and something that you learned in the video game world pays off here or vice versa?
Definitely I learned quite quickly in video games. It's so specific about the the movement of your body, and that's always been something that I've had a challenge with, being kinesthetically kind
Mm,
of connected to knowing exactly what my body is doing at any given point.
mm,
And I found that in theatre school, I had to work, extra hard to kind of really get my whole body in tune with myself. And I found that I had to rely heavily on muscle memory. So if I had to hit a particular mark on the ground for the cameras to be able to pick it up, and it had to be like, sometimes you're working on something that is so minute and specific within the game. It could be that it's just a like 30-degree turn and you have to
mm.
get that right. So I had to do like repetition, But then quite quickly it paralleled to the TV film world where you have to be so specific about hitting marks. So I am very good at hitting my marks now
Nice.
because everything is reliant on focus. So if I overshoot and I go over my mark, focus is in the poor camera team is having to work that much harder to be able to find me, and they're measuring me. They'll be like, "Can you stand on the mark there?" Okay, they know to rack to that. Okay, and then go back to your previous so that I'm in focus the entire time. So it's all part of a choreography. So
Yeah.
I think my kinesthetic challenges in theatre school ended up paying off because I just focused that much harder on it in video game world and then into TV film. I'm
That's
very good with
amazing.
marks.
That is so cool. So you mentioned 2021 was where, and I think you said 2021 was where you had that first lead in that
Mhm.
type of like a rom-com. What would you say was the project? And maybe there's one or two where you're like, you know what, I think that this is something that I can stick with and I can make a good living off of it. I feel like there's always these actors that have these stories. I was waitressing and I got to go in and say, I'm out of here. Did you have that type of experience at all?
So I did have I've always had like a secondary job alongside being an actor for years. I was in hospitality, so I worked in restaurants, hotels, for years, supper clubs, and then I was in healthcare for a little bit as well. So I was doing administration in healthcare. So I kind of organically ended up leaving that world last year when I was my boss was very sweet and she knew me for years and she was very understanding that I was like, listen, I'm an actor, this is what I want to do. Projects come up, I need to be able to go. So
Yeah.
she always offered me that freedom, and I'm forever grateful for that. And I think it surprised her because when I moved over there, it was late 2020 to work for her. That was when I started to get a lot more momentum in terms of the roles, the size of the roles were getting larger. I think I did
Mhm.
3 roles just in the span of August to December of 2020 when the industry reopened past COVID.
Yeah.
And after that, the next one was my first lead. And then once that aired, I think I caught attention from more producers around the industry because everyone watches one another's work.
Yeah.
So then 2022 was a very busy year, 2023. So last year I went to her and I was like, listen, I've got a movie. Like, yay. But I'm going to England to film. So I'm gonna be gone as of literally Thursday. Like by the time everything got greenlit and checked off with my, union and everything, I was like, I'm flying out Thursday. And this was like a Tuesday afternoon. And then right after that, the next day, my agent called me and I had an offer for Unwrapping Christmas.
Yeah.
So I was literally, I'm like, oh, it's my agent, Gail. She's just making sure because she's really panicked about me going to the UK. She's like, I don't know. Like, are you going to be okay over there? I'm like, don't worry. I'm literally from the UK. My cousin lives 60 miles from set. I'm fine. So I thought it was my agent calling to be like, I'm like, oh, Gail, she's checking in on me again. And then she's like, listen, I've got another offer. It's a four-parter movie, and I'd heard of the Love Club, so I knew that these kinds of films were being made. And she said it's Cindy Busby, Natalie Hall, Ashley Newborough. So already I'm kind of going, oh,
Yeah.
okay. It's like it's the creme de la creme of like the Hallmark sweethearts. And she's like, it's in Oshawa. So she's like, listen, go to England, do your project, and then you're literally coming back, and then you're going to fly to Oshawa to be able to do this next project. She's like, you're basically employed until July. I'm like, woohoo!
Yeah.
This is sort
Yeah.
of in the early April. So, I mean, that's the dream is to know, like, yay, I'm employed, I've got
Yeah.
work kind of thing.
Yeah.
So basically, by the time I got back from that project, hearts around the table started to stir as well. And so I never kind of went back to the job. I still chat to her and
Yeah.
I'm still good friends with all of my team there, but it's just sort of, it's gotten to the part organically, I just ended up not going back. And I told her, I was like,
Yeah.
you need to hire someone,
Yeah.
don't put
Yeah.
your business on the line for me
Yeah.
sort of thing. So I think
Yeah.
that answered your question.
That's a no, that's exactly
I
it.
ran it.
That's a cool story. And so that leads us right into Unwrapping Christmas. You filmed that one last year. It
Mhm.
just aired it, like I said earlier, it was on Hallmark Plus first, and
Yes.
then Hallmark decided to bring it to Christmas in July this year, and loved watching it again. What's exciting that we just recently heard Hallmark put out a press release that it was the number one most watched entertainment cable programming on Saturday all 4 weeks. How exciting is that?
That was wild. So I ended up learning it through I think it was through Ashley posted it, and it was on Forbes magazine that it
Yeah.
had 12.6 million
Yeah.
viewers.
Yeah.
And that is just, it's very surreal because I live in Canada, so we don't have the Hallmark channel up here. So we have kind of our Canadian equivalent, which is called the W Network, Women's
Hmm.
Network. And so when the first Hallmark Plus is not in Canada either, when it was first airing last year, I was like, it was just such a special collection of movies. I loved every second of it. I think it was beautifully shot. The team, the crew really came together, and it was aesthetically really, really gorgeous.
Yeah.
And plus these gorgeous women working with, and Nathan and Torrance and Alec, like, so I was when it was airing on Hallmark Plus, I was like, because like it means my Canadian family and friends and stuff can't see it up here.
Yeah.
So when it did get around to Christmas in July, I was really happy that I'm like, oh, good, that means it's gonna have like a little bit more viewership to be able
Yeah.
to watch it because not everyone has transitioned onto the Hallmark Plus yet.
Yeah.
And then yeah, the reports started to come out, and so I had people that were watching it in Canada because they're like, oh, it's on the W Network. I've been seeing you on adverts all week. I'm like, oh, really. It's just you feel very kind of strangely detached from it. I
Mm.
do anyways, that when people are like, oh yeah, the movie was on TV the other day, that they don't tell me when things air. So I find out through broken telephone from normal everyday people I see, that they're
Yeah.
like, I saw you in a movie last week. I'm like, which one? What was it about? Like, especially like this former boss, her mom loves Hallmark movies, so she is always constantly sending pictures whenever I'm on TV. She sends them to my former boss. So she's like, yeah, my mom watched you in a movie last week, kind of thing. So yeah, it always feels a little bit detached from me. Um, but yeah, it floored me really. I was sort of gobsmacked, and I'll
Yeah.
use that English term,
Yeah.
to think that. Thank you to all the people watching to allow us into your homes and on your screens. It was, especially July. It's summer outside. I
Yeah.
mean, it's very hot in Canada, so everyone's hiding in their air conditioning right now. But I'm very honored that people tuned in to watch that journey, and yeah, that it got to be shared with more people.
Yeah.
I think that was something that I was very happy about,
Yeah.
that it was airing on the Hallmark channel, so we got
Yeah,
everyone
it,
to
it
see it.
it seems like there still is. I know Hallmark is really pushing that Hallmark Plus and the streaming, and it's almost like there's two different, audiences. So many viewers,
Mm,
many of them, even the younger, have moved more to that streaming type of a platform. But then you still have that group that says, I still, have the cable that I'm turning on, and I'm
yeah.
hanging out in the Hallmark Channel world. So I think it's great that, maybe it starts over on Hallmark Plus, but then it swings back to Hallmark Channel because there is still quite a difference of audience. And in this opportunity, it paid off. So that's pretty exciting.
Yes. Yeah, I think when Hearts Around the Table as well was coming out, it was slated for Hallmark Plus. And then when they were releasing, they announced that they were releasing the show. Oh, the one that Andy McDowell is in. Why is it blanking?
The Way Home.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
They announced that this next season was going to go onto the Hallmark Plus, and I think there was a lot of backlash
Oh yeah.
about
Yeah.
that, of
Yeah.
fans being like, no, we want to watch it. Why are
Yeah.
putting it exclusively on this app? So
Yeah.
then I think, which is really good. I think Hallmark is very attuned with the audience,
Yeah.
keeping their fans happy. And, I think they're making big strides ahead in terms of their diversification, their inclusivity in projects as well. And they listened. And
Yeah.
so when Hearts Around the Table was rolling out for Spring into Love, it was on the Hallmark channel and on W Network up here. I was like, oh, well, again, I like that because it means just it's exposure to more people get to enjoy the
Yeah.
films. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So for those that still haven't seen Unwrapping Christmas, can you talk a little bit about what Unwrapping Christmas is all about?
Yes. So the collection Unwrapping Christmas follows the story of four friends from university. They run their own little store called All Wrapped Up, and they all have their own little kind of jobs within the place. One's the marketer, the marketing guru. One is sort of like the manager that keeps us all kind of in our places, and then I'm supposed to be the accountant. So me is a little bit more behind the scenes, always there to help out, but would rather be kind of outside of the spotlight. And she's very much a bookworm, very much an old romantic. And in particular, at Christmas time, she loves this traditional story that her grandmother used to read to her called Christmas in Derbyshire. And she reads it every year as a tradition. And one fateful night, she ends up meeting Beau, played by the gorgeous Nathan Vita. And he seems to have this strange resemblance in multiple ways. He looks like the character, he behaves like the character, he's mysterious like the character. So one of the fun things I loved about the script actually is that the first few encounters that Mia has with Beau, there's no witnesses. So her friends aren't quite sure that she's not just imagining something. Yeah. She's like, "Are you sure?" Or like, "Did you fall asleep reading the book again?" And yes, it turns out that she meets Beau Kavanagh, who's a very, very dashing but unavailable gentleman. And she has to kind of question whether or not she's prepared and brave enough to take that dive into love and follow in, the direction of her literary heroine and embrace love, or roll back into conformity, because it's a little bit complicated. Beau has a complicated situation going on. So it was a beautiful film. I loved the script when I got it. I think it was shot really, really beautifully. Very classic romantic script. And I got to work with Amy Force, who is director extraordinaire. This was my fifth collaboration, I believe, with Amy. And yeah, it was just a dream. Very hot. It was a very hot process, but it was just a dream.
That's funny because I think that's the third time now I've heard about how hot it was.
So hot.
It must have been hot.
There were moments when we were filming in the storefront that was all wrapped up, and again, like the crew, the art design of this film, they stellar. They, to the point, it was so realistic that we were doing a take and someone walked in the store hoping to buy something, and then got quite upset when we were like, shh, they're like, "Well, yeah, could have put a closed sign on the door if you weren't open." We're like, so like that. I think that's kudos to the incredible work that the crew did. That literally looked like a storefront. And yeah, we were just trying to keep cool wherever we could, because of course film Christmas movies in the summertime wearing winter clothes. Yeah. So we were like hiding in the basement where we would have to kind of like duck because the floors were, low. It's an old heritage building. And there were a few moments where you get so hot that your brain just goes into a fog. And I remember doing a scene with Ashley and just getting to my line and being like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Line, please. I can't remember my line. I've just had a complete brain fart." But you just have to roll with it. And then every time they're like, "And cut," air conditioning comes back on, you've got fans, they do their best to try and keep you cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah. You mentioned when you heard about the project that, you're thinking creme de la creme, I'm working with Cindy and Natalie and Ashley. How is that different, doing a series like this than just your typical movie of the week where, you're opposite, a leading guy, the movies that you've done, but now you've got three other ladies that are your leading ladies as well?
I found it very empowering. I found it quite daunting at first, because I'm like, wow, these women they come with resumes. They have been in the industry slightly longer than me, certainly more experience than me. I was really much the ingenue compared. And yet when you meet them, they're so down to earth. They're so positive to each other as well. We really lifted one another. And even though it was quite confusing because we were doing this crossover week, so the movies were sort of, Cindy shot her film first with Jake, then I went in, shot mine with Nathan, and then we had 6 days of this crossover world where we were all in and doing scenes, jumping into Tina's film, Lily's movie, Mia's film, Olivia's. So it's very confusing. So thankfully we had an amazing crew that were able to organize all of that. So we're just like, whose movie are we doing now? Olivia. Okay, perfect. Okay, good. Now I know. So yeah, we just kind of kept each other bolstered when we had to. It was amazing because we don't get that opportunity to meet one another
Yeah.
We see each other on screen. We've worked with the same co-stars. We kind of joked, we're like, we recycle the men,
Yeah.
but we never get to hang out with the other women. So it
Yeah.
was an incredible opportunity for that as well. And to see these women working. And what I was able to see quite quickly is that I saw how they approach the work, the characters, like the professionalism. We all have a very similar way of working. And so seeing that a lot like playing out right in front of me was incredible. And it sort of confirmed that what I'm doing in the
Yeah.
world, because there's so many theories on acting and how you should do it, how I've always approached the work, and I've gotten further work from it. I'm like, I
Mhm.
think I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. And then seeing it play out in front of me through three other women, I'm like, wow, yeah,
Yeah.
we all work in a similar way, which I think maybe explains why we are working,
Yeah.
perhaps,
Yeah.
in the industry itself. And we understand the genre and we want to elevate the work and bring our own touches to it. So very empowering. I loved working with the ladies and
That is
then
so cool.
meeting
That's so cool to
everyone.
hear. Yeah. And you're making a movie, but at the same time, you're learning. I'm doing like, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I'm on the right path here. I'm doing the right thing, right?
Yeah.
That's so cool. Do you have a favorite, on-screen moment or behind the scene moment from that project?
Oh, oh your goodness, there's probably so many. Um, I had a fun moment with Nathan when we were just, of course, that when you're filming the scenes, you're doing the wides, you're doing the mediums. When it got to his close up, it's the scene when he shows up at the store the second time, and he's got all of these boxes, and I'm like, why did you come by if you didn't think we were open? And he drops a teddy bear, and that was just something that organically got incorporated working with Amy, working with Nathan, that he just wanted to kind of like, oh well, stumble, and then the teddy bear kept falling off, so we're like, okay, we're gonna move forward with that
Yeah.
until it got to Nathan's coverage, and then that teddy bear hung on for dear life. And so there were moments where he'd fumble the boxes and the teddy would just sort of, at one point we all got the giggles because it was like Sylvester Stallone in Cliffhanger, the old VHS or the DVD cover where he's
Yeah.
hanging from the mountainside, and this teddy bear was literally just one paw in and was just hanging from this box. And we're like, we almost gave up. We're like, it's not gonna go, it's not gonna give way. It's just Teddy does not want to work today. And
Oh,
then other fun moments were the first couple days of the crossover was all of the gala stuff. Every time we're crisscrossing into that world, it was a really rough shoot for the crew because just so much to do. And whereas we as the actors, we'd all get pulled out every so often, but then we just really got to hang out and get to know each other.
hmm.
And I remember hearing hilarious stories from Alec and Nathan, who got on really well. They're both Vancouver boys. And we were doing sort of like the finale kisses. And so that's a good way to break the ice, is like some of the first shots of the movies with them is I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, Nathan, we're gonna kiss now, and it's in front of a bunch of strangers we just met like 2 hours ago, but let's go for it. Thanks. So I think that would be a fun memory from that film as well. There's so many though, but those are some that I can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Having talked to the other ladies, they said it was, just an amazing project to be a part of. So it
yeah,
sounds like you guys had a blast.
so much
And we're
fun.
hot.
Yes. Very, 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 very warm. So yeah, it was just like peeling off layers whenever we could and trying to keep each other hydrated. Like, do you have water? Where's your bottle?
Yeah.
Did you drink?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun
So
though.
Unwrapping Christmas was really centered around friendship, whereas Hearts Around the Table is this amazing story about a family that's created. Can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about Hearts Around the Table?
Yeah, so Hearts on the Table follows the storyline of four of the foster siblings. There's always more. Like Mindy's character, Angie, is always like, she's a very active foster mom. So it follows the four that have, I guess, lived with her the longest. So that was Ashley Nubra as Jenna. Then we had Michelle Morgan, who played Sherry. We had Josh, who was Jake Epstein, and then myself as Kiki. And then, yeah, it follows our how we pursue our passions in life with each film, but also our journey towards love. And
Mm,
it's a very special film because we're always portraying families in these worlds, but generally they're families that are related through blood. And this
yeah.
is not, this is a chosen family. And I think that's something that touched a lot of people. as well, that we don't all, it's a reminder, we don't all come from that stable background. I
Mhm.
myself am very privileged that, my parents are together, I have siblings. But you don't always get that. That's not always the result of every person's experience in life. So then to portray these kids all a little bit lost but coming together and finding that sisterhood, that brotherhood within your chosen family, I think that was a very special aspect to this film.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Having watched it, and like you, it's like it was more of an awareness for me, where it's like you just get so caught up in your own world and the way that
Mm.
family is for you, and then you see this other world. It was such a touching series for me to watch, and just have that reminder that family comes in all shapes and sizes, and but then at the same time, it still held true also to the Hallmarky kind of like finding love world. I loved that mix. I
Hmm.
loved also watching, your particular story that it was about Kiki finding love, but it was done in such a unique way in that the family was still also the center of the whole story, and that even Kiki is coming in to support Jenna, who's getting married. Can you talk? Kiki owns a food truck. What else
Yes.
can you tell us about Kiki? Because I just loved how that whole story played out, and that what Kiki learned in her journey, aside from finding love.
Yeah, so I think Kiki is very stubborn, strong-willed, determined person. She's very passionate about food, and she sees like the nourishment of her family as her way. It's like her love language
Yeah.
is to be able to feed the people that she loves. And so she wants to take on the challenge to support her foster sister Jenna when she's marrying her high school sweetheart. She's like, I'm going to do the catering. Jenna's asked me to. I'm going to do it. It has to be me. She starts to meet some obstacles along the way, some roadblocks, but happens to cross paths with one of Andrew's very good friends from school, who is the delightful Clay, played by Torrance Coombs. And he is a successful chef, and he Kiki misinterprets quite a lot of the friendship and the help that he offers as some form of inadequacy, like some kind of judgment against herself. He owns a restaurant. Oh, I own a food truck. So she always seems to be like comparing herself to Clay and his successes, and he really wants her to see that, that there's not one clear path towards success in life, and that what she has achieved is incredible. It's immense. So to not kind of belittle herself or feel that she has to be protective of what she's done and what she's carved out in life versus him. So, yes, she does take on the challenge of Jenna. It was a very special story because it wasn't as formulaic as some of that world can be. That
I
there was
agree.
the undercurrent story
Yeah.
throughout. And it wasn't just in Kiki's film. Like we all have a sub story. There's always a like story within each film. So with Jenna's movie, it was like a little bit about like Michelle's character, Sherry, of her going through a divorce and splitting up and whether to give up her life in Europe to come back.
Mhm.
And I really loved that. That even in Sherry's film, like Jenna's was underlined in Josh's film. I was an undercurrent of that story with Millie Davis, Gina, the newest kid to the foster club,
Yeah.
and then yeah, everyone's story sort of came together for Kiki's one, and we had the challenge of the wedding, and then Jenna. Hope there's no spoilers, but Jenna's biological father showing up, and the kind of the aftermath of that, and how they
Yeah.
all just, despite things being thrown at them from every single direction, at the end of the day they just all rely on the core fact that they love each other, that they're there for each other. Like, what do you need? I'll support you in however I can to help you get through this next challenge, this next obstacle. So
Yeah.
it was a very special film for that.
I agree. From a viewing standpoint, it definitely was a bit different than what we're used to
Hmm.
seeing on Hallmark. But I love just that, like you said, there was the main story going on, but they just wove them so well together throughout each of the four of them, and just continue to show how connected the family was, the uniqueness of the family,
Yeah.
but still held true to that, why we show up for a Hallmark movie. So,
Hmm.
do you have a favorite part of working on that particular project?
I mean, I loved working with Torrance Coombs. So of course I worked with him on Unwrapping Christmas.
Yeah.
I had a slight fangirling moment when I found out he was cast with Ashley because I was in the trailer and they had our headshots up and I just suddenly saw Torrance Coombs and I grew up watching, the Tudors,
Yeah.
Thomas Culpepper, and then I was auditioning for years for the show Rain that he was on in Toronto. So I was like, oh my God, it's Terrence Coombs. And so when I met him, these characters that he plays that I had seen him, not so much within the Hallmark world, but definitely within the Tudors, are kind of, malicious characters. They've got like ulterior motive. And then I meet like Torrance, and he is so mellow. He's so calm. He has such a kind and generous attitude and energy to him.
Yeah.
He's very giving as a scene partner. Um, so I was very excited to get to work with him again. Some of the when we were always joking and we would have heart to hearts as well. And when we'd wrap for the day, we'd have dinner together and then be with each other all day on set. And there was one scene in particular that ended up becoming a favorite. And I loved how it was edited in the end. It was just a simple montage sequence of us
I'm so
cooking
glad you
together.
brought it up. I loved it. I'm so glad you brought it up.
Right, it's like us cooking, and I'm showing him what I can do, and he's showing me what he can do.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'll give you the idea. So it was very end of the day because you shoot these movies more or less based on location. So it had been pretty much everything that was supposed to be inside like Seven Basil had been filmed that day. So we'd already had our heart to hearts being like, oh, I don't know if I can do this kind of thing. He'd shown me the kitchen. We'd already done all of that scene. We go back and change, and then we're doing this montage. So it's very end of the day. We're all very, very tired. And kind of chilly because we were actually filming that in November. And it gets to the scene, he's just like, we're just gonna just do stuff and we're gonna film it. So we do kind of like the crab cake and we're eating. And then it got to the part where we're supposed to just be cutting peppers. And I don't know if my knife was blunt or I am just this inept as a chef. I'm not a cook. I'm trying to cut and Torrance just he ad-libbed. He's like, having trouble there? And you see me start going like, it won't. And then they thankfully Hallmark rolled down the audio because I'm literally just saying it won't cut. So that ended up being one of my favorite sequences because we just none of us could keep a straight face. We're all like,
Yeah.
the director's like Marco, who I adore, he's like, geez, Kat, you can't even cut a pepper. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't. It's like, it's not on my resume, okay? So it was just, yeah, a lot of fun. And how it ended up looking at the end. Even we can't even cheers forks, we miss each other, but it happens to be that those moments is what make these Hallmark movies special.
Yeah.
There's always
Yeah.
particular hits. Like we know the genre when we're working with it. There's particular hits that you have to get. The lingering stare, the smile. But when those moments of just yourself burst through, I think that's what makes them very special. And so that was just literally Torrance being like, having trouble there. His suave, cool, calming demeanor, and then me being, the kind of idiot that I am being like, it won't cut. And it made the film. And I was like, yay! That ended up being like one of my favorite moments in that film was that sequence. So yeah.
It was good. It was really good. And I'm so glad that you brought it up. I watched it again yesterday and really enjoyed it's so fun. You got to watch everything twice, at least twice, because then you pick up on new things. But that one, it was solid. It was fun. So I'm glad that they left that in. That's amazing to hear that
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. Thank you to the editor on that. So yeah, he kept in the those little nuances of
Yeah.
real Cat and Torrance coming through the work. But I think that those are the little nuggets that I think, yeah, bring something special to the work, extra special. It's a little sprinkle on top. But it also, I think, allows the audience to get an idea of who we are as people because we're
Oh
always
yeah.
playing in these character worlds.
Yeah.
And I'm a very silly person and I love to have fun. I love to joke around. I do knuckle down and work when I have to. Directors are like, this is serious. I'm like, yeah. So I think that that just kind of shows the inner clown that it's not even an
Yeah.
inner clown, it's a full outer clown that I am.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, in between the takes sort of thing.
That's fun for us because I think as we watch more and more of actors' projects and kind of see some of their style and get to know them, it's always fun for us when we see a new project and go, oh, that's Kathryn, where
Yeah.
it's like those little things kind of dip into the projects. You talked about Torrance being, more of that calming.
So
Um,
calm.
but
So
same
zen
way,
and
same way in
wise.
the movie, calming, but at the same time very commanding, like, that presence is there and that
Hmm.
translated as well into that story.
Yeah.
So it's always fun to see that. So curious, just a few personal questions here.
Oh,
So do
sure.
you have a role that has challenged, you would say it's challenged you the most as a performer?
Ooh, I see every role as a new challenge because when I watch back my work, I'm almost doing it with a notepad and
Mm,
pen. And I want to improve and better myself at every turn.
yeah, yeah,
And that's not quite very different from theatre school. I had a professor there, and he's like, your work is one of constant study. So you're constantly going back and being like, okay, well, this isn't working. I didn't get quite the reaction that I wanted out of this actor in this performance. What can I do to kind of like zone in more?
yeah,
So, and I do see that, like, as I'm working on these films, I prepare as best as I can, with what I think the character needs, what they're pursuing in these scenes ahead of time. And I like to be off book ahead of going into film as well. And working as soon as I can get the script. Even with Hearts Around the Table, they were writing the scripts at the same time. And I was constantly pestering, I'm like, can I get my script? Even just a draft. Even just a draft for like Kiki, can I just get the script? Because I find that the more time that I have to work on something, I consider it like a cup of tea, and I had a teacher that told me this. So, like, the longer that you leave a tea bag in, the more it steeps, the more flavorful it is. So that's
mm,
just my approach. Is that I like to work on it as soon as I can. Things become more flavorful, and then more nuances can kind of come out in the work itself. So yes, I do see every role as a new challenge to try different things. In some of my early work, I could see that there were things I wanted to do on camera, but I slightly chickened out of it because the role wasn't about me. I'm playing
mhm.
a smaller supporting role that's supposed to be there as an anchor to help the storyline go through and to
Yeah,
help the leads. So there were things that I saw that I wanted to do, but I didn't quite do it. And then I learned from doing that, being like, okay, well, if you have like the instinct to try that, try it, do it.
yeah,
The director
yeah.
will tell you if you're wrong. So pretty much, yeah, at the end of the day, every role is a chance for me to learn and hone my my craft
Yeah.
more, and to bring as much of myself and reality into the world and color it. I just like to bring
Yeah.
color, and I think that's what makes movies stand out is the different nuances that actors bring to them. The storylines like Hallmark is, they've knocked it out of the park. They have a formula that works for them.
Mhm.
Lady meets man, misunderstanding. It's very like the Jane Austen kind of traditional storylines of misunderstandings, and then reconciliation, but then there's something else that comes up. And so we all know how these movies are going to end. We know
Yeah,
that's what audiences tune in for, but
that's right.
it's bringing together a different collection of actors that all bring something, and we just play and we have fun on on camera, and then they stitch it together, and then that's what makes the movies different, is what you as your humanity brings to it.
That's
That's my
so
approach
good.
to acting anyway.
That's so good. Do you have a preference as far as, like the more rom-commy type or some of that heavier material? Do you have a preference?
I really love this world. Um, MOWs. I mean, you get to work with incredible, beautiful crews, like incredible like crew members. The cast that you get to share these special moments with, they're crazy, they're chaotic, they're very, very quick. Like by the end, I'm kind of delirious by the end of a week. So I'm like, another reason I'm off book, because I don't know how I would
Yeah,
learn lines otherwise.
yeah, yeah.
By the end of the week, I'm just like, this last production I just finished, I woke up on the Wednesday and I thought it was Thursday. And the whole week played out with that I was like, woke up Thursday. Oh, it's Friday. No, it's not. It's Thursday. I still have another day after this. And I love the work, but it's just that you get to the point of exhaustion that you're
Yeah.
like, I don't know how I'm gonna function, kind of thing. But if you know the script, like you've done the work, you've done the investment beforehand, then it makes it easier on the day, and somehow the words show up. But I do really love this world and the people that you get to meet along the way. I mean, it's so positive. We're just when I'm on set, I'm like, we're making movies about love and magic and romance and
Mhm.
Christmas sometimes, or Valentine's, and summer flings and things like that. It's just such a beautiful world to be working in, and I'm delighted that I've had the opportunity to share that with audiences
Mhm.
and just bring a little bit of positivity to people's days. I think there's just a lot of negativity in the
Yeah.
world at times, and I think that these just really center us back to maybe this is what we're on the planet for, is
Yeah.
to like love one another and to be
Yeah.
good to each other. And kindness, it's a hard thing to do because we're beaten down almost every day by different, things that are going on in life. But, just paying that forward, that kindness, I think is something that is it's very special in the world when you come across it. And I think these movies are that. They just portray kindness and love and friendship and support for one another.
I love that. The same reason we show up to watch is why you show up to work. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
They are as much fun to make as they are for you to view. And I do always hope that that shows through. And based
Hmm.
on Torrance's reaction to me being unable to cut a pepper, I think you can see that the fun that we have, it comes through, it leaks through the lens.
Hmm.
And I think that's what makes, yeah, these roles very special. Even like Unwrapping Christmas, one of the first scene I did with Nathan was our baking scene, and we'd been chatting. I'd met him, I guess, a couple of hours before. We'd spoken on Instagram quickly, and then I'd met him a few hours before. We'd been kind of chatting as I'm being pulled in and out of the room to go and shoot stuff, and then it's like we're making a baking scene, and we just ended up having like a fight with the flour, and it was legit. It was what do I do to him at one point? I think I flick him with flour, and he goes, "Okay." Thing, and then we all start fighting, and it got to the point during filming that the director was like, "Cut!" Because the resets were so, I'm covered
Oh,
in
yeah.
flour up
Oh,
here.
yeah.
And I had
Yeah.
a picture with Darcy that was my hairstylist for it. And I'm kind of doing a selfie of being like, because I've got flour all on the side of my head, and he's got this very grumpy face behind me. Because every time they were like, send her upstairs, like, you have to remove the flour so we can reset and do it. So the director, Amy, is very in tune with her actors, and so she knew quite quickly that she's like, wait, cut. We're not going to throw the flour until we don't need to do the resets any
Yeah.
further, sort of thing. So yeah, those moments of fun are I think that they do penetrate the screen, and you get to enjoy them as a viewer as well.
For sure. Do you have a dream role that you haven't done yet that you're like, oh, I got to do that?
Oh, okay. I have a few. One of my favorite shows growing up was Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman.
Oh, yes. You
I
just want to play
loved
opposites solely, right?
I love Jane Seymour.
Oh, yes.
So the fact that she does, like, she's doing Hallmark, she does Lifetime movies,
Mhm.
and I remember in 2022 I was part of a lineup of her and Joe Lando were doing a film,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then I think it came out in like October 21st or something, and then mine was releasing November 5th, and I'm like, I'm sharing Christmas time with royalty because yeah, I just adored that show growing up. So something along those lines. I'd love to horse ride in a film.
Mm.
I love
Is that something you can
period.
do?
I
Can you?
can.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
then
I
you
was a
have to.
horse rider, so I'm like,
Okay.
I'm waiting for my cowboy western to come. I'm like, come on. But I'd also like to maybe like a medical drama, legal drama. But I'm also drawn to truthful historical work as well.
Mm.
And I would like to tell the stories of women that look like me, have a similar background to me, but within different time periods itself. So I
That's
don't know if
cool.
you can tell, I'm very kind of pale, but my dad is black, so I'm like I'd like to portray stories of black presence within North America, within like the UK. I'm a history dork, so I love to yes.
I am
So I
too.
love to learn that, and me as a mixed race actor, I want to portray that. There's a whole community. I want to portray that forward on screen, but also give life to stories that have been forgotten by the dominant narrative
Yeah.
of the history books. It's not they're not told. So,
Yeah.
the Gilded Age, showing a glimpse into that world of, what it's like to be, African American post, American Civil War living in New York, Jim Crow rules and era
Mhm.
down in the South and stuff like that is intriguing to me. In Canada, we have our own history up here. Again, it's not the dominant, it's not what we're kind of taught. We're, about the fur trade up here, but
Yeah.
there's incredible indigenous history up here, Black presence in Canada. A lot of the Nova Scotia, the East Coast, a lot of it was populated by escaped former slaves or people that had fought for
Yeah.
the British in
Yeah.
the American Revolution, and they ended up in Nova Scotia. So I was like, we got, it's not just the Underground Railroad either out of Ontario where I am that were
Mhm.
escaped slaves coming up. We have so many different cultures within Canada. So I would love to portray that
Mhm.
forward. Same with the UK because I'm from the UK originally. So yeah, I'd like to portray some of those stories forward too. Particularly to write.
There's so many, I mean, we can learn so much from our history, and there's so many stories. I mean, you can see them in a book, but to bring them to life, and I think even
Mhm.
make them, relevant for today's audience where it really grabs them and not only just like draws them in, but informs them, I think is so,
Yeah.
so that's admirable that that's something you want to do.
Yeah, I think history right now is being warped into thinking that it's about guilt tripping
Hmm.
generations now for what was done in the past, and it's
Yeah.
not. They bandy around the terminology being woke,
Hmm.
and I don't see I don't see what's wrong with being aware of
Hmm.
historical imbalances.
Hmm.
It makes you more empathetic,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we can move forward better as a society if we are more empathetic to understanding, and this is my history dork coming out, why the world functions the way it does now.
Yeah.
We can only learn that through reading the history books, and digging through and finding those narratives that are buried along the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Canada, right now we're kind of, I went to high school in Canada, but we didn't really study Canadian history very, very
Interesting.
much. And so even when I got to university, it's getting heavy. I didn't know about the residential school systems in Canada until I was at university and I was reading works by a survivor of the residential school systems. And I was like, what is that? And I Googled it. And yeah, I grew up in BC where unfortunately those unmarked graves were found. I
Hmm.
lived around that area, about 100 miles
Hmm.
from there. So,
Hmm.
we have our own stories that we need to kind of come to terms with in Canada, but I think it's the only way we can kind of move forward
I
as a
agree.
society. It's not about, we're not guilt tripping.
Mm-mm.
It was circumstantial as to why things happened in the past the way they did. So let's just, listen to the stories, embrace them, and then move forward to better ourselves
Yeah.
for everyone as well. Sorry, I'll get off my pedestal. my
No, I
my
100%.
soapbox.
I I have a master's degree in history, so I'm right there with you.
Oh
So,
my goodness. Did you have a specialty, like a signature area that you studied?
well, it just says an MA in history, but I would
Okay.
definitely say it's American history. So,
Okay.
but I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So, and
That.
again, for the same reason that you do, I think that, we don't necessarily need to go back and stay there, but it's like, learning from what they did and what happened as a result can make us so
Mhm.
much more, like you said, informed, empathetic, help us to make smarter decisions now. So I am so glad that you brought that up. So,
I have a minor in history, so that's like
yay!
a strange fun fact about me. So yeah, but mine
Stephanie
mine
and
tend
Kat
to
are going to
be,
start a new podcast. Join us.
yes. My history is like, I'm fascinated by, well, the legacies of empire, British
Mm,
Empire. I mean, you grow up and
mm,
you're like, oh, the empire, the sun never sets. But I
yes.
see like the impact of colonialism. I'm fascinated by that. Um, the transatlantic slave trade. So colonies, my grandpa's from Jamaica, so
Yeah.
I'm fascinated to see like that literally that demographic shift
Yeah.
of when you think of someone from Jamaica, you have an idea, but those people are not originally from that land. I had a very supportive grandma who knew that we wanted to be performers and stuff
Mhm.
growing up. So I'm always like, this is for my grandma, this is for my grandpa. And
Yeah,
I just hope to
yeah.
portray, yeah, the truth always in honor of them. And also that's why I advocate for like my curly hair and my freckles. I'm like, because that's my grandpa to me.
Yeah,
So I'm like, I want
yeah.
that portrayed on camera.
I love it. I love it. So we've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about unwrapping Christmas, hearts around the table, and some other fun stuff. Is there a particular project that if I were to ask, what's something we need to go check out that's Kathryn Davis? Do you have a project looking back? And sometimes it's like, what's the first thing that comes to mind that we need to go check out that
Ooh.
you would recommend?
Well, one project that really holds a special place in my heart is Christmas on Fifth Avenue, and that was my first lead role.
Ah,
So
yeah,
it's
I thought it was. Yeah.
and it was on Up TV, so I'm not entirely sure how it's been. I mean, it's made it to the UK. My family in the UK have seen it, and I think it's aired up in Canada. But I think that that was a very daunting project for me because it literally was my first lead, and
Mm,
I was like, okay, I've got to knock it out of the park because, I want to make sure that they knew that they weren't gambling with me. It was same company, Brain Power. This had been, I think, my maybe my third or fourth role with them at that point, but it was the lead. So I'm like,
yeah.
big boots to fill. And I mean, I work with Olivier Renault, and he is a theater actor. He's like a godsend. Love him dearly.
Hmm.
And it was both of us. Like it was his second lead, it was my first lead. So we were just like, let's do this. Let's
Yeah, yeah,
and I think it was when I saw the final project again, it was like confirmation that I'm like, okay, I think I know what I'm doing. And I saw things that I'm like, I can improve on that. And I knew that I'd lent performance wise a certain direction and I saw it pay off. So I'm like, okay, be brave. You can be brave, be
yeah,
prepared, um, show up ready, be gracious, be um have fun.
yeah.
Because I think those fun moments really do shine through. So that would be one project that I would recommend. Also, maybe Santa's Got Style, because that was also Up TV with Franco Lopresti, and that one was just it was a very hot again, but very, very fun production to do. And I was like the number two in that version. So Franco's number one, and it's usually when you see call sheets, it's usually the females is the number one. So I really enjoyed that world of playing naive and
Okay.
having the two different I think very distinct characters that Franco brought to the character of Ethan, who's like my high school friend that I'm like, no, there's no romance there. Like we just know each other, we're best friends. And then Rafe that he becomes. Um, it probably sounds very obscure what I'm describing unless someone's seen the film, but it's sort of like a Mrs. Doubtfire-esque
Nice.
storyline that it gets revealed that my best friend is actually has been pretending to be someone else that
Mm,
I end up falling for. So I'm like, oh my
mm.
goodness, I've loved my best friend all along.
Right.
That one was a very special production. It was a lot of fun.
That's cool. Well, I'll be sure to drop in the captions where people can watch both of those because I noticed both of those looking through your IMDb, so I'll go check them out myself. So that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any projects coming up? I know you may not be able to share much about them, but anything that we could look forward to maybe this fall or this winter?
Yes. So I just finished production probably about 3 weeks ago on a Christmas movie. It is slated to go onto the Lifetime channel. I can't say the name because it's probably going to change. But I work with the lovely, talented Jonathan Stoddard on that one. And yeah, directed by Mike Donis. It was very, very fun. A hot production again because we're filming literally in July, filming a Christmas movie, but that one is slated for sometime this Christmas season with Lifetime Channel.
That's exciting. That's so cool. Yeah, I was just looking at some Lifetime stuff earlier today, and I was like, oh, I forget. Lifetime has Christmas movies too, and I
Yeah,
love the Lifetime Christmas movies. So,
yeah, they have It's a Wonderful Lifetime Christmas. So
yeah,
I've had a couple movies that have gone on to Lifetime, and then yeah,
yeah,
some with Hallmark, some with Up TV. So I'm getting around. I'm
that's
getting to
good.
the different studios,
That's
everything.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, tell everybody where they can follow you to stay up to date on all of the projects and things that you've got going on.
Yes, so I have a website. It is kathryndavisofficial.com. Try to keep it as updated as possible. And then I have Instagram, and the I guess my handle is at the THE underscore Kathryn KATHRYN underscore Davis DAVIS. So you can kind of track what I'm up to on that.
That was cool. That was good. And your website, I checked it out. It is so
Oh, thank you.
it's
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah, good job on that. Well, Kathryn, thank you so much for chatting with me today. It has been so much fun to get to talk about, your two big series that aired this year, but also to hear about what you've got coming up, and then just to get to know a little bit more about you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to listeners for sticking with me through it. I know I warned you, Stephanie, right? I rabbit. I talk a lot. So thank you for everyone to if they got to the end of the podcast, thank you for listening.
That's okay. You made it easy on me. It was so great to hear all of your stories and to learn more about you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for
Okay.
having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.